Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for coming to our press conference today, which obviously due to the current COVID-19 restrictions, we're hosting via Zoom. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Adrian Tennant. I'm the chairperson of Scouting Ireland. And with me today is Miss Griffin, our Chief Executive Officer, and Mr Gearoid Begley, who's our Safeguarding Manager at Scouting Ireland. Today we are publishing the Ian Elliot Learning Review into historical sexual abuse in Scouting. I will first outline the context of Mr. Elliot's report, and Anne will give an overview of the governance structures now in place. Gearoid will then speak to the safeguarding structures that are now in place in Scouting Ireland, and then the most important part of the day, where I will actually speak directly to those who have been hurt in Scouting. Many of you are aware together of two former legacy organisations, the Catholic Boy Scouts of Ireland and the Scout Association of Ireland. Today we are the largest youth organisation on the island, with nearly 50,000 members, made up of young people being facilitated by adult volunteers in every town and community across the whole island of Ireland. In July 2017, Mr John Lawler, the then CEO, with the support of the board, asked Mr Elliot, Ireland's foremost safeguarding expert and a man of deep integrity, to undertake a review of safeguarding policy and procedures in Scouting Ireland. During the time Mr Elliot spent with Scouting Ireland, he became aware, as only somebody with his vast experience in the field of safeguarding could, of what he suspected as the underreporting and recording of sexual abuse in Scouting. It was only with this expertise and knowledge that he had could this have been identified. As we are only too well aware, society's response to sexual and physical abuse was sorely inadequate in times past. And our collective understanding now of what safeguarding is and the need to protect vulnerable children and adults has changed utterly. What emerged was the uncovering of shocking stories of sexual abuse in Scouting over many decades. To date, 356 victims and survivors have come forward to Scouting Ireland, to the Gardaí, to the PSNI, to TUSLA and to Gateway to share their stories. From that, we know of 275 known or suspected perpetrators. We now know that young people were abused, both physically and sexually. Some alleged abusers were serial abusers with multiple victims. The alleged perpetrators were at all levels within their organisations, up to the most senior levels. There is evidence that very senior people knew of and protected alleged perpetrators within these organisations. This cronyism led to cover-up or looking the other way. Abuse did happen, and it was not responded to in a way that protected the young person, nor did it seek to hold the offender to account. Most shockingly of all, Mr Elliot states that based on emerging evidence that senior volunteers, who were thought to be sex offenders themselves, did share information with each other about their abuse and took steps to facilitate that abuse for each other. What has become very clear is that the Scouting and its historic legacy organisations evolved into two contrasting, overlapping worlds. In the main, there was Scouting at its best. It was supported by the genuine commitment of thousands of volunteers. They work for the benefit of tens of thousands of young people who have had a positive experience in their Scouting trail. However, in parallel, another world existed. Sexual predators used the movement to abuse young people and to destroy lives. Where cronyism is present, it permits unscrupulous behaviours to go unchecked, such as sexual abuse. Habits develop of turning a blind eye. Organisational reputation and what passed for personal respectability was put before the welfare of young people. These were the very reason that Scouting existed. these are the people that were hurt the most. I want to acknowledge that there were many adult volunteers in groups who did try to protect young people at that time and brought matters to the attention of national officers, but were ignored or not believed or supported. I want to recognise what they did, sometimes at great personal cost to themselves, and to apologise to them and to thank them for doing what others should have done, but didn't. We are determined to learn from the mistakes of the past, to understand what occurred so that we can make sure that this can never happen again. To help us do that, we, Scouting Ireland, commissioned Ian Elliot to undertake an independent learning review into historical sexual abuse in Scouting. This learning review has been possible because of the willingness of people who have a story to tell to share that information. In some cases, the individuals involved have never spoken about what happened to them to anybody else before, not to their families or not even to, in some cases, their partners. The fact that they had the courage to come forward now and to share their story is what made this review possible. This learning review is a milestone in Scouting Ireland's determination to search for the truth. It exposes past failings, particularly in our legacy organisations. It enables us to learn from the appalling backdrop of abuse which was ignored and unfortunately, in some cases, was actively covered up. As Scouts, we will not hide from our responsibility to tell the truth. By looking beneath the stone and searching the darker corners of the organisation, we have faced up to the fact that in the past, Scouting on this island was not always safe for young people. Today we have put the protection of young people where it always should have been, front and centre of everything that we do. We, as adult volunteers in Scouting, understand that to be an adult volunteer in Scouting Ireland is a privilege. It's not a right. The current board of Scouting Ireland has been in office now for 20 months. We're not simply just a new board, we are driving forward a completely new approach to good governance and accountability. What motivates us is the determination to deal fully with the issues of the past. This work was started by our former board under the interim chairpersonship of Annette Byrne. I want to acknowledge the leadership of Annette and the key individuals on that board who stood firm, determined to do the right thing. On behalf of our organisation, I want to thank her and those former board members. I also want to thank our former CEO, Mr John Lawler, who advised the board and worked closely with Ian Elliot throughout his engagement with Scouting Ireland. It was these actions in facing up to the wrongs of the past that have made Scouting stronger and safer for the future. Scouting Ireland, through its own governance review and the Gillian Van Turnhout review, became acutely aware of the need for strong and good governance in our organisation. Bad culture, as described in Mr Elliot's learning review, thrives on poor structure and poor governance. This learning review is correct in describing the culture that had existed in the legacy organisations as one that allowed the spectre of cronyism to develop and where volunteers were not held accountable for their actions in the past. Scouting Ireland unreservedly accepts the findings of this learning review in their entirety. It is an appalling vision of abuse, of cronyism, and a catastrophic failure over decades of the prevailing governance structures at the time to deal with it. Scouting is a youth movement, and our young people are at the centre of everything that we do. The development of young people to be the leaders of tomorrow is what we, as adult volunteers, sign up to facilitate. As I said previously, we recognise that to be a volunteer in Scouting Ireland is a privilege and not a right. Cultural change requires that we constantly recenter ourselves on the young people that we exist for. In his report, Mr Elliot makes 12 recommendations on governance, safeguarding, disciplinary processes and procedures, records and documentation, interagency cooperation, preventing cronyism, and to make an institutional apology to victims and survivors of abuse in Scouting. We have accepted his recommendations and are implementing them. I would now like to hand over to our CEO, Ms. Anne Griffin, and our Safeguarding Manager, Mr Gearoid Begley, who will outline our governance progress to date and our roadmap to implement recommendations as set out by Mr Elliot in his report. Anne.
Thank you, Adrian. Mr Elliot's report is important for the courageous survivors of sexual abuse in Scouting, many who have come to tell us their stories, for the volunteers who are committed to Scouting and who support Scouting for the benefit of our young people, for the parents who trust us to safeguard their children, for the young people in Scouting, the only reason we exist, for other youth organisations who can learn from its findings. The findings of Mr Elliot's report are, as Adrian said, deeply shocking, deeply distressing for everyone in Scouting, for the victims and the survivors of abuse who were failed, and for the parents and the communities who support Scouting Ireland. As CEO of Scouting Ireland, I want to assure all our members and the wider public that Scouting Ireland is a very different organisation today. A very significant body of work has been undertaken by our organisation over the past 3 years, much of which was led by our former CEO, John Lawler. I am determined to ensure that we continue this work so that we can become an organisation that is excelling in safeguarding and governance practice. Regrettably, Mr Elliot found elements of cronyism within Scouting Ireland, but the new governance structures will, I believe, help us stamp out any lingering elements of this damaging behaviour. Mr Elliot makes 12 recommendations, and our response is outlined in the document, Scouting Ireland's response to Mr Elliot's learning review. The first recommendation is on governance. Our governance journey began before the safeguarding issue came to the fore. An internal governance code review was undertaken in 2014 to ensure Scouting Ireland met new legislation governing charities and voluntary organisations. The identified weaknesses in our governance and the need to introduce new governance structures, members voted for these new governance structures at the EGM in October 2018. Minister Sapone, the Minister for Children and Youth Affairs, requested an independent review of our governance structures. Ms Gillian Van Turnout's review was completed in June 2018. Most recently, in April 2020, Ms Bridget McManus, former Secretary General of the Department of Education and Skills, conducted a review of the implementation of the recommendations of Ms Van Turnout. We're greatly encouraged by Ms McManus's review, which found that the recommendations of the 2018 report have been implemented satisfactorily. In benchmarking our progress to date, Ms McManus recognised the significant work and organisational effort of all involved in Scouting Ireland in the major changes already made. Our new governance structures deliver greater transparency and accountability, and they include the establishment of a company-only structure with a new board of directors, directors elected based on competency and skills, governance training for all directors, the appointment of external independent directors to the board of Scouting Ireland, structural reform ensuring a clearer separation of oversight at board of director level and operations delivered by the CEO through the departments of the organisation. The board prioritises safeguarding, and it is a standing item at every board meeting. As CEO, I report to the board monthly on safeguarding matters, and our safeguarding manager attends quarterly to provide a detailed update to the board. As per Mr Elliot's recommendation, we continue to engage with external governance experts to support us in our governance journey. We expect to be fully compliant with the CRA Charities Governance Code by December 2020. 3 recommendations relate to discipline within Scouting Ireland. As Mr Elliot has shown in his report, discipline was lax historically and at times difficult within Scouting in Ireland. A lot of work has been done in this area. Our governance structures have introduced clear lines of responsibility and accountability. Our process and procedures mean people now know they'll be held to account if they do wrong. We developed and introduced a new disciplinary code in 2019. This is regularly reviewed to ensure it's fit for purpose. A disciplinary panel of 3 members, one of whom is external to Scouting Ireland, has been appointed to hear disciplinary complaints. A disciplinary appeals process has also been developed. We've also introduced a suspension without prejudice policy and procedure, which allows us to suspend the membership of individuals who are subject to disciplinary processes or safeguarding disclosures. We're working on a revised volunteer code of behaviour, which will also be complete by the end of this year. There are big cultural changes within Ireland, but they have been welcomed by our members. There can be no hiding place for bad people and no room for bad behaviour in our organisation. We continue to review best practices. We learn from other Irish organisations and international Scout organisations. A significant problem identified by Mr Elliot was the improper keeping of safeguarding records by the legacy organisations. Often there were no records of known safeguarding complaints. He also identified the improper holding of files relating to legacy organisations by former national officers. These files should never have remained in the personal possession of these officers. Mr Elliot has made 2 recommendations on documentation and records, which we accept and we have taken immediate steps to address. Scouting Ireland is committed to ensuring that all records concerning the organisation are centrally stored, monitored and easily retrievable. In 2018, a new safeguarding monitoring and filing system was put in place under the guidance of Mr Elliot. All safeguarding files are the responsibility of our safeguarding manager. We're digitising all paper files onto our secure electronic server. Procedures are in place for recording and the management of all complaints to the Safeguarding Department. We've committed to an external audit of safeguarding within Scouting every 2 years and an annual internal review to ensure that we're following our procedures and to learn from best practice of other organisations. Over the past 18 months, concerted efforts have been made to ensure no records are stored outside Scouting Ireland's Safeguarding Department. We have had files returned to us, and we continue to make regular appeals to our former officials who may have files to return them to us. A recommendation is made that Scouting Ireland issue an institutional apology to victims and survivors who were failed. We have privately expressed our sorrow and apology to individuals contacting Scouting Ireland directly who were failed. We have also publicly apologised at the Joint Oireachtas Committee for Children and Youth Affairs in March 2019 and December 2019, as well as in statements to our members and in media interviews. We recognise the deep hurt caused to victims and survivors who were failed. Our repeated apologies may never be enough, but each are made sincerely and on behalf of Scouting Ireland. We also recognise the significance of an organisational apology in helping to bring about healing. Adrian Tennant will be formally making this apology in a few moments, and for us, it is the most important part of today. Mr Elliot's learning review makes one recommendation concerning interagency cooperation. Since our establishment in 2004, Scouting Ireland has always disclosed to the relevant authorities any complaints that required disclosure. We've also cooperated fully with their investigations and made our files available to them. In the most recent Bridget McManus report, TUSLA made positive comments concerning the relationship between our two organisations. Gearoid has been to the fore in building even closer links between Scouting Ireland and TUSLA, An Garda Síochána, the PSNI and Gateway. External advice and cooperation with experts in the field of safeguarding is welcomed by Scouting Ireland. Transparency in all our operation is how we restore trust and confidence in our organisation. There are 4 recommendations relating to safeguarding. This is the most important focus of our work. Safeguarding in Scouting Ireland has been completely overhauled under the guidance of Mr Elliot previously and now under the safeguarding manager, Gearoid Begley. In addition to monthly reporting to the board by myself and a quarterly presentation by our safeguarding manager, a safeguarding subcommittee of the board is in place with the skills and knowledge required to advise the board of directors. The safeguarding subcommittee has 3 external members, one of which is the chair of the committee. But as Mr Elliot rightly states, the protection of children is not just the responsibility of the professional safeguarding department. It is the responsibility of every adult in the organisation. And we are engaging in a comprehensive and sustained manner with our members to ensure they understand their obligations to the health and safety of young people in Scouting. Gearoid Begley will now outline to you the role of the safeguarding in Scouting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everybody. My name is Gearoid Begley, and I was appointed the Safeguarding Manager in Scouting Ireland in April 2019 following a public recruitment campaign. My comments will relate to safeguarding in Scouting Ireland since my appointment. While I cannot comment on historical issues or what occurred prior to my appointment, I can give you an overview of safeguarding in our organisation today. Scouting Ireland is first and foremost a child and youth-centred organisation. The safety of each and every child must be at the core of everything we do as an organisation. The Safeguarding Department consists of 3 full-time staff, and we're based in Scouting Ireland's national office at Larch Hill. We have a secure office in Larch Hill, and dealing as we do with highly sensitive information, our work is conducted on a confidential basis, separate from the rest of the team. Mr Elliot has recommended additional resources for the Safeguarding Department. The CEO and the board are working to identify how best to resource the department, and we are in the process of appointing an administrator to assist with the administrative requirements of the department. I report to the CEO and through her to the Board of Scouting Ireland. The CEO and I meet frequently, at least once a week, to discuss safeguarding matters. A monthly report is prepared for the board, which is presented by the CEO, and I attend board meetings on a quarterly basis. This allows the board of directors to question me on the approach to safeguarding and to satisfy themselves as to the rigour with which we are protecting our members. The term safeguarding is most often thought of in the context of sexual abuse. However, safeguarding is far wider than that and involves the health and safety of children, including their emotional welfare and their physical safety when engaged in Scouting. I would also echo Mr Elliot's comments that the protection of children is not just the responsibility of the professional safeguarding team. It is the responsibility of every adult in the organisation. I want to assure our parents and the wider public that this individual and collective responsibility is the foundation of all training, activities and engagement throughout our organisation. I would also encourage parents and guardians to be active in satisfying themselves in relation to safeguarding in their child's Scout group. Engage with your group leader, ask questions of them, ask to see their safeguarding statement, and make sure you are happy with the arrangements for group events. Never assume, never presume, ask. Safeguarding begins as soon as an adult applies to volunteer in Scouting Ireland. All adult volunteers must supply references that are checked by the group leader before being allowed to apply to become a volunteer in Scouting Ireland. All adult Scouters must be vetted in the respective jurisdiction before engaging with youth members. All adult Scouters must participate in a residential training weekend, in online training, one-to-one induction with group leader, and a group training workshop which involves around 24 hours of training before taking up a volunteer position. All adult Scouters must renew their vetting and they must attend a safeguarding refresher training course every 3 years. This last point is very important. It's not enough for our volunteers to undertake safeguarding training on their appointment, but they must refresh that training every 3 years. This ensures all our volunteers understand the most current and up-to-date standards of safeguarding. Safeguarding is also front and centre in each of our Scout groups. A child's safeguarding statement must be publicly displayed in every location as required. Each Scout group must complete an annual child safeguarding risk assessment. To ensure the safeguarding of all youth members, adult to youth ratios are detailed within our safeguarding policies and our code of practice, and they must be adhered to at all times. Activity consent forms are required for all activities, providing adult volunteers with information to safeguard the youth members. There are numerous policies, procedures, and guidelines that provide groups with information on how to safeguard our youth members. This goes beyond sexual abuse. This extends to health and safety, physical safety, sleeping, hygiene, emotional welfare, etc. These child safeguarding policies and procedures have been independently reviewed by Mr Ian Elliot initially and further developed by myself and the Safeguarding Department in conjunction with both TUSLA and Gateway in Northern Ireland. When we receive a complaint, whether through our helpline or by some other means, Scouting Ireland document the complaint. Where the disclosure needs to be made to the appropriate agency, An Garda Síochána and TUSLA in the Republic of Ireland, and the PSNI and Gateway in Northern Ireland, we make those disclosures and we cooperate fully with their investigations. I am pleased to say that we have a good working relationship with all of these agencies. If the matter requires disclosure and investigation by the state agencies, we must wait until their work is completed before starting our own processes. Once the relevant authorities have completed their investigations, we then examine the complaint. The Safeguarding Department determines any actions that need to be taken from a child safeguarding perspective, such as retraining or advice. Should breaches of the organisation's policy be identified, the matter is referred to the organisation's disciplinary process. Mr Elliott's learning review found that where national officers were informed of safeguarding issues, in some cases the appropriate people were not informed, such as group leaders, thereby putting children in harm's way. This is not the case today. If an allegation of abuse is made against an adult volunteer, they are suspended without prejudice from Scouting until the matter is investigated by the relevant state agencies. In addition, while our work is confidential, where there is an identified risk, the relevant people are informed so as to prevent any potential harm. It's very important that we make this clear so that parents can have confidence in the steps we take to prevent harm. Our helpline, which was established in November 2018, remains open Monday to Friday from 9 AM to 5 PM. Anyone who wishes to speak to one of our team in confidence may call our dedicated helpline. That's 1-800-221-199. That's a free phone number from the Republic of Ireland. I'll just repeat that. It's 1-800-221-199. Or from Northern Ireland, you can call on 00353 87 0934403. And that number again is 00353 87 0934403. Or alternatively, they can contact us by email, and the email address is safeguarding@scouts.ie. That's safeguarding@scouts.ie. All matters will receive immediate attention and will be treated confidentially. Eliminating preventable harm to young people must be the most important objective for Scouting Ireland. I believe that this is recognised. Since my appointment, I've had total support from the CEO and the board, and indeed from the wider membership. Mr Elliot's learning review has allowed us as a department and as an organisation to learn from the mistakes of the past and to put in place the structures, processes and procedures to ensure the health and safety of our young people is to the fore of all decision making within Scouting Ireland. We know that safeguarding is a continuous and evolving issue. We have to continually review our processes and procedures, and as our understanding and knowledge of perpetrators evolve and as new dangers emerge, we must be ready to meet them. There'll never come a time when we can rest on our laurels. This is why we have committed to an annual internal review of safeguarding in Scouting Ireland and an external audit of safeguarding every 2 years. We will always be vigilant, and in delivering the mission of Scouting, we will always have the safety of young people to the fore. We are committed to making Scouting Ireland as safe as it can be for our young people and to ensure there is no hiding place for those who do wrong. Thank you. I now hand back to Adrian.
Thank you, Anne and Gearoid. Anne was appointed as Chief Executive Officer in February this year and is continuing our work with volunteers and staff in ensuring that our organisation is fit for purpose and continues to be so. And it also ensuring that the safety of our young people is first and foremost in everything that we do. Anne and her team continue to support us, the volunteers, in our mission of providing quality and safe Scouting programme. Teams of dedicated volunteers and staff, working together, are doing great work in supporting our groups the length and breadth of the island. I want to acknowledge the professionalism of our staff who worked under severe pressure during this crisis in our organisation, reaching out to those who were hurt in Scouting and implementing the biggest changes in Scouting Ireland since our inception in 2004. A professional safeguarding department and robust safeguarding policies and procedures are front and centre of the organisation. I also want to acknowledge the work of our safeguarding department, led by Gearoid, who demonstrate great professionalism, empathy and deep personal commitment to the very important and sometimes difficult work that they do on behalf of the organisation. But now I want to turn to the most important part of today. As chairperson of Scouting Ireland, as an adult volunteer, and as a father with children involved in Scouting, I want to make an organisational apology to all of those who were hurt in Scouting. On behalf of Scouting Ireland, we unreservedly apologise to the victims and survivors of abuse in Scouting who were failed. We are sorry that adults in Scouting harmed you. We are sorry that you were not protected. We are sorry that you were not listened to or felt that you couldn't tell your story at the time. We are sorry for the hurt caused to you and the legacy of that hurt, which we know that many of you still carry today. We know we cannot take away that hurt. but we do want you to know that you have been heard. We do want you to know that you are believed. And we want you to know that we will support you. We are determined that there is no place in Scouting for anybody, by design or by omission, who harms a child as you were. Cronyism, looking the other way, or covering up are not victimless crimes. These are enabling actions. We pledge to adopt the learnings and recommendations held inside Mr. Elliott's report. It is a light pointing to a very dark corner, but it is also a beacon for the standards, culture, and structures that we must have, and we must be resourced to ensure that Scouting is a safe place for young people. You, by your bravery in coming forward and telling your stories and speaking out, have helped to uncover the truth. Your legacy now is to have helped to make Scouting Ireland a safer place for young people, to have reminded us why we exist, to support and cherish our young people through their Scouting experience. Finally today, I would like to thank Mr. Elliot for delivering this comprehensive learning review and for his work with our organisation over the past number of years. Ian Elliot was critical to helping Scouting Ireland uncover these shocking and deeply distressing stories, and helping us to respond so that we can make our modern Scouting Ireland as safe a place as it possibly can for all of our members. His guidance has been instrumental to us transforming safeguarding and governance in Scouting Ireland. Parents and communities can continue to have full confidence in modern Scouting and in the huge efforts and positivity that our volunteers bring to their communities across the whole island of Ireland. Our deepest respect is due to the victims and survivors. We will not forget that in the bravery and honesty of their personal accounts, they, more than any others, have demonstrated the character which Scouting Ireland needs to continually strive to meet. Mr. Elliott's report is for them. This is their story. Thank you very much.